a date which will live in infamy.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up.
3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
It spans the globe like a superhighway. It is called Internet.
Well, big news in the world of self-driving cars. Tesla has announced that they're building all of their vehicles with self-driving technology.
Centenarians of Oklahoma began in 1991 in the Oklahoma City area, and it was one of those organizations that began because there was a need for it. The man who started it realized that there were quite a few people in his circle of friends that had family that were turning 100 years old, and there was no one who was honoring them, and he thought they should be honored because reaching the age of 100 is kind of a milestone. Only about 1 out of every 7,500 people in the state of Oklahoma make it to the age of 100 years. So this young man began honoring people. After a while, the program grew big enough, it expanded to eastern Oklahoma, and I began working with the program in 2013 and have been working with it ever since. And in the period of time that Centenarians of Oklahoma has been going, we've honored right at 2,200 people. The most rewarding part of working with this program is to see the smiles on the faces when we honor the people. For them to know that someone besides their own children or grandchildren comes in and makes a little fuss over them. We want them to know we do care about them.
An honor, I think, that he came here and did this. Now, and that was my official name, Edna Luella May. I was named Luella May, and my sisters had a lady friend named Edna, and they wanted their mother to name me Edna because they liked that girl so well. My father was a homesteader. Came here in 1889. And it was just open prairie then. I don't know if there was any indication of a town yet, but the college wasn't going very big, if any, at that time. I don't know what the origination of the campus was. But from where we lived, we could look down over the whole area, the town and the college. We had little one-room schools back in my day. We had to walk to school. We didn't have buses. We didn't have cars to take you. You just managed in the weather. And that was pretty bad sometimes.
Another thing that we often see is this aspect of meaning and purpose. These persons generally have something in their life that's very meaningful.
Well, you have to keep your brain active or it might go dead. I don't know. I guess seeing the change of cars coming in use and things like that. I think my family, as far as cars, I think my father was one of the first in the area to have a car. Of course, back then, the old Model T Ford was a popular thing. We had an old-fashioned phonograph. We enjoyed the music from something like that. You know, you could get those disc phonograph records. The music we had back then was music. So much of the stuff they have nowadays is just banging on a drum, and I don't know, it's not really music. Well, speaking of TV and stuff, we didn't know what that was, of course, and it didn't have it for my kids until they were teenagers, I guess. First TV we had a little thing about so big, just a little black and white picture.
Well, I think with centenarians, a person that makes it to 100, there are a lot of explanations for why persons make it a century. Of course, you have diet, nutrition, eating a moderate diet, a very more health conscious oriented diet.
Well, I tell people I guess it was hard work and good living. We raised our own food. We knew we had good food. It wasn't treated like a lot of our foods are today.
If you do make it to 100, then you still have to have a reason, to want to keep going.
Maybe that's why I was left here to straighten out my kids, but there's nothing I can do about it.
We are the only program, as far as we know in the whole world, but definitely in the United States, that honors centenarians. Why did I want to get involved with Centenarians of Oklahoma is an interesting question. Many years ago, my grandfather lived to be 101 years of age. And when he was about 100 and a half, I went to the nursing home where he lived, and this was in central Kansas, and visited with him for a while, and pretty soon he said, "Okay, Gloria, now you have to leave because it's almost time for me to have lunch." And I realized that food was very important to him, and I began to be interested in, well, why do these people as they get older care more about food? And so I started thinking about, well, the fact is they don't have siblings left by the time they've made it to 100 years of age. My grandfather didn't have any brothers or sisters still living. He was alone. He had outlived 3 of his 10 children, one of which was my father by that point, and he couldn't understand why God was leaving him on earth and taking his children. But I began to care about centenarians, and I've had that concern and appreciation for the centenarian population since that time.
My brother died, it hadn't been quite 2 years, but it was very hard on her when he died. She says, "I don't know that I'm going to make it to 100 anymore." She was born March 25th, 1918. She was the second youngest of 11 children. She was born in Cement, Oklahoma. She's always said, "I think I'm going to live to be 100." And she did.
You have to understand that this is a person that's lived a century. And so they've seen a lot of different things, maybe not the exact same things in their life, but they've seen some of the darkness and suffering that humans can inflict upon themselves as well as others. But they've also seen some of the joys and triumphs of life and the uplifts that come with just living 100 years.
I remember her talking about during the Depression, having food stamps and having to go and stand in line for certain things, and but she never said that bothered her. It was, her family were farmers, and so they always had food. She said she never remembers going hungry. They always had food, and she said that they always had enough food that they would feed people that would come around and needed things. So she said that her dad would always invite anybody into the house to have a meal. But one thing I've noticed about Mother is that she's very appreciative. She's, if anybody does anything for her, they come in at Golden Oaks to check on her quite often. And she just thinks that's wonderful, and she says, "They are so good to me here." And just Ron and I, when we do things for her, she says, "I don't know what I'd do without you." She's just very appreciative, and I think sometimes older people forget to say thank you for, but she's always said thank you. Her faith was very important to her. She was a great cook. She was very artistic. She did a lot of different crafts and was good at all of them. So she was an excellent seamstress. She was, excellent basketball player in cement. Still holds the record for the most points scored at her high school. We were best friends when I was in high school. We enjoyed doing the same things, and we enjoyed sewing together, and we enjoyed doing that for a long time. I think the older she has gotten, the less filter she has. Mm-hmm. She says things that you can tell she hasn't thought them through before before they come out of her mouth. And sometimes that could be very hurtful to people. It was usually family that was, wasn't a stranger or anything. Also, since she couldn't hear, we would be out in public somewhere and she would talk real loud, and whoever she was talking about could hear her. And so that was a little embarrassing sometimes. But
what are the secrets? The question they want to ask, what are the secrets to living long, and how can we translate those to you and I, other people in the world, other people in society, so that, anyone who is interested at any age of living a long and good life, healthy life, can do so.
She never smoked, she never drank. She's always said everything in moderation, and she was never overweight. She just has taken good care of herself.
Genes play a part of making it to 100. It helps. It certainly does help if you've had a parent or a grandparent, or perhaps if you have a sibling who's made it. We know there's that family heredity link that occurs.
Maybe because she was always so healthy, really never sick. And maybe because her dad lived to be 96. I don't know.
There are some very common threads. Oklahoma is and was, particularly when these centenarians were growing up, a very religious state. And so most of the comments for the 100-year-olds will be in the faith area. And they will say something like, trust in the Lord, believe in God, read your Bible, do good to others, etc., along that line. Others will include information like, well, you should exercise if you want to live longer. But do you really want me to tell you what the very cutest one is that I've ever heard? Just keep breathing.
I think the main thing is if you can be in reasonably good health, then, age is not, Mother always said, I never think about my age. She didn't dwell on it or worry that she wouldn't live till next year. She made the most of every day. And it was like a so what to her. Mother is 104.
Did you say
and a half. When we're children, we got to wait. If we're not just 3, we're 3.5 or 4.5. So she's 104 and a half. She had a very loving home, but it was only her mother. Her father passed away when she was very, very young. She was raised by her mother. The 3 children were raised by Grandma Mabel, who worked in the post office in Gunnison, Mississippi. And they lived in the back of the building. Post office was in the front. And the children learned to sell stamps at an early age, penny postage stamps. We told her the other day that one stamp now costs 50 cents, and she said, "What did you say?" So she's seen a lot of changes, but she learned from the post office that you were always kind to people, and Grandma Mabel told the children, even if someone is disagreeable to you, you will not be disagreeable to them. You will be kind. And so I've always remembered her saying that. We learned the value of money. We learned the value of saving money, using it wisely. Really, we had an excellent childhood upbringing.
attitude, what we often call the optimism factor. Some researchers have suggested that centenarians have this kind of personality connection or personality attributes that are very good. They're not very neurotic, they're very or anxious or emotionally unstable. They're very emotionally content, emotionally stable. They generally are very optimistic, very happy.
Traditionally, when everybody would see her and say, well, hello, Clara, how are you doing? And she'd say, oh, I've got it made. So that's the way she looked at it. You know, she was blessed, and she had no complaint. She did not complain. She has complained with pain these few days, and that's about, I never heard her complain. Even situations happened, but since she knew not to be unkind to anybody else, she handled it. I have known a couple of centenarians from my hometown, and she has been able to do more longer into their life than anyone I've known. There were two other people in the family who were 103, but they lived out in Mississippi, so I didn't get to see. The last time I saw the lady that was 103, she was in a wheelchair. So Mama's been mobile until, what, 2 weeks ago? She'd walk down to, I don't know if, she'd usually just get out of the room.
Without her walker.
Yeah.
On a regular basis, yeah.
And if she took the walker, she'd forget she left it and she'd walk back, so.
She didn't feel the need for it.
No.
She had to exercise, you know, yeah, every day.
Did you ask about friends? Her friends were younger than she, but you know, I don't think age made a difference. She has the brown hair, and I have the gray hair, and Mother is very upset by that. She wanted beautiful gray hair like her mother had. Aww. And she said, I don't know why I can't get gray hair. She said, I'm getting the wrinkles, but I don't have the gray hair. And I just said, well, Mom, I got it instead. I got it instead. She has really been in excellent health, although she's had breast cancer, surgery for breast cancer, ovarian cancer. She's a cancer survivor. She's a very strong woman. She's just a fireball of energy, or she has been until the recent fall. Very thoughtful, very loving, very enthusiastic, a delightful person. That has changed drastically now. Were it not for this excruciating pain, but even when she gets some pain medicine under her, if she's awake, she'll still jibe back and forth with the aids, you know, and the teas, and so it's still there, but the pain overshadows it right now. We've been so blessed that she's done well for so long. So, you know, things change, and so we've expected something. We didn't know what to expect, and now we know what's going on. So we just don't want her to be in pain. We don't want that.
Last year we honored 133. Our goal for this year is 140, but we are growing by leaps and bounds. And it's mainly because we're really out there actively searching for the centenarians. It does help if people will let us know that they have a loved one or someone in the facility where they work that's turning 100.
Did you expect to live to be over 100?
No, I never expected it. I'm surprised, blessed, I guess you'd say.